making all.
Shalom, shalom, people of God, good evening. This is Reveal It Show with Pastor Deborah Seke-Oshindi. Thank you all for connecting with us. Please, as you are connecting, keep sharing the video to bless another person or to even help save a life. Tonight we have a powerful topic this evening that we're going to discuss. It is quite sensitive. We're going to speak of domestic violence and abuse. We will focus, we will speak to it about it in general, but we will also focus on the Christian community and also speak on how to overcome the mental health impacts that comes with this sort of abuse or violence. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you the speaker of today, that is our very own apostle in the house, Apostle Nadine Lobondo, connecting with us all the way from the Netherlands, and to bring something to this platform in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. So this is for you, Apostle Nadine Lobondo. As you can see her on the screen, Apostle Nadine,
Hi.
God bless you
Good
and
evening,
welcome.
everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Deborah. Thank you, everyone. And good evening.
Yes, so Apostle, if you would like to start by introducing yourself, who are you, what do you do, so that we can continue on this topic.
Yes, sure. Thank you for having me tonight, and thank you to all our viewers. My name is Nadine, and I'm actually living in Belgium. So I moved from the Netherlands, and I now live in Belgium. I've been living in the Netherlands for a lot of years. I think almost 20 years, and now recently I moved to Belgium. I'm a writer, I'm a preacher, so that's basically what I do, and I'm a child of God, of course.
God bless you, and thank you for honoring our invitation this evening or coming onto this platform. So for our viewers, Apostle Nadine, I would like to start with a simple question. I would like for you to elaborate a little bit on what domestic violence and abuse actually is for our viewers.
Well, Pastor Deborah, thank you so much for having me on this topic. Like you said yourself, this is quite a sensitive topic, but this is a real good topic to elaborate on, to talk on. Of course, in 1 hour, we'll not be able to talk about everything on domestic violence. But we are, like you said, trying to emphasize on the general part of that, and by God's grace we'll see how God is going to lead us, because I praise God because you came with this wonderful topic to bring awareness, and I believe that this really can save lives. And I'm going to give the definition of domestic violence, but before I do that, I want to say that in all the type of abuse that we're going to discuss or talk about tonight, something very important that's always coming is the control. So this is abuse is about control. It's about controlling someone. So the domestic violence, actually, or domestic abuse, is violence that is being committed in the domestic settings. It can be a man towards a woman towards a man, but also parents towards children.
Wow. So we are here, obviously, like the apostle has said, to raise awareness, but I also want to emphasize with you who's watching us tonight that we are very much pro-life on this platform. So if you are going through the the different types of abuse that we're gonna discuss here tonight, feel free to inbox us if you needed to reach out to you or to refer you somewhere where they could, help you get out of the situation or find you a safe place to stay. So we know that abuse now is about the sense of control. And the sense of a control, Apostle, that is for the perpetrator, isn't it?
It's for the abuser
The
who
abuser, right?
want to
Yeah.
control in a toxic way.
So as we know that there are different types of abuse, can you tell us the different types of abuse that they are?
Yes, Pastor Deborah, let me take some quite time in here to really um, say or talk about this different type of abuse, because like you said, I believe that there are certain people watching us tonight, and some of them won't even don't even recognize or acknowledge that they are living in an abusive relationship. And I
Yes.
believe that if we could emphasize on not just the definition, but also to point the signs, so that people will really recognize that, is it really a good relationship that I'm in, or is it a toxic relationship? Is it abusive relationship? So that people will really recognize that, because there are some type of abuse that people don't really recognize that they
Yes.
are actually in abusive relationship.
Yes.
And that is the first one that I'm gonna mention tonight, is the emotional abuse.
Yes.
Most of the people who are emotionally abused don't really recognize it, because it's a subtle way of abusing someone actually. And some people will just say to you, they will say, well, it is not quite bad. So I want to emphasize on some signs so that people will really recognize that it is bad. You
Yes.
deserve to be treated with respect, with kindness, with love, and those signs are just not correct. So the first that I'm going to mention tonight is emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is any kind of abuse that is emotional rather than physical in nature. What does that mean? That means that the abuser is actually trying to hurt your emotion. And I
Yes.
don't mean just for a night to hurt your emotion, but constantly hurting your emotions. That can be verbal abuse, so, and that can be screaming. The person who scream all the time at you. That can be criticism. You find yourself in a relationship that he or she will always criticize you in everything that you do, even if it's good. He or she doesn't see the good at any point. So embarrassment, they will try to embarrass you in the front of people, or even when you are alone with a person, they would always try to embarrass you. And in the front of people also, you also see some people who just say, well, I'll come to eat at your house because my wife cannot do this or cannot cook
Yes.
that anyway. So, and they always try to embarrass you,
Yes.
to hurt your emotions. They put you in a position of shame, that you feel the shame. They blame you for sometimes certain things that you didn't even do. And it can go even further to intimidation and manipulation. And if is it, is there is a fine difference between emotional abuse and mental abuse, because
Yes.
it can be quite the same: mental abuse, emotional abuse, and psychological abuse. But it most of the time start with the emotional abuse, that someone will try to always hurt your feelings at the first time. So when you recognize already those signs that someone constantly try to put you in a situation of shame or blame or criticism, then you have to start thinking,
Yes.
is it a healthy relationship or a toxic relationship? Because most of the time, Pastor Deborah, it goes further.
Yes.
It goes further. And let me first point the consequences of the just the emotional abuse. Is like you are going to have low self-esteem, mental health illness, depression most of the time.
Yes.
So, and the first abuse is really hard to recognize because the abuser will try in a subtle way to say things. And when you are pointed to them, you be like, I don't feel good when you say this and that. They try to make you feel even more guilty.
Yes.
And most of the time, it goes further to the second abuse, is the mental abuse. And this one is really destructive to your mental health. It's really destructive because now it goes from just, criticism to name calling. You stupid, you loser, you don't know how to do this. And sometimes even Pastor Deborah, they will say it
Yes.
not all the time in an aggressive way. Sometimes they will even say it in a way that you like, okay, are you being nice to me by insulting me or something? Or they will, honey, you so stupid. Honey, you a loser. But actually they are trying to hurt you mentally. They assassinate your character. So those an abuser, a mental abuser will try to assassinate your character.
Yes.
So it's like they basically say you're not a good person, and they yell at you all the time for even for nothing. They keep on screaming at you in the front of people. They keep on screaming at you, and if you are alone with them, they keep on screaming at you. They insult your appearance. You never look good to them. Oh, you look fat. Oh, you look thin. Oh, you don't look good. You look too dark. You look too light. You never look good to them. So you can do whatever you want to do. Sometimes even, the other part will try to please them, try to do their efforts. But you will see that any effort that you're doing, it is not enough, and it is never going to be enough, because that is abuse. Abusers, they have never enough of abusing the other part, the victims. So they will try to put you down every single time. They treat you like a child.
Yes.
And all these things is actually, Pastor Deborah, is destroying your mental health. And they go even further by threatening you. If you leave
Wow.
me, then you're never going to see the children anymore. If you leave me, nobody's going to like you anymore.
Yes.
If you leave me, well, people in the church are going to gossip about you. So they go further just for you to really feel bad mentally and psychologically. And digital spying, they go into all your accounts. They want to know everything. They want to, actually, what I said, they want to have the control,
Yes.
financial control. I'm going to talk about that later. But in all this type of abuse, you find the financial control. They want to control your finances. They give you direct orders. You know that I have my dinner at 6. It is 5:69.
Yes.
I still don't have my dinner. How come? I want to have my dinner now. I want you to fix things now. And even though he knows that sometimes you can't fix that, and he wants you to fix that. And because you are not going to be able to fix that, then it can go further into insulting you and treating you like a child.
Yes.
He'll use other people. He'll say, well, you see, sister so and so don't even like you. You see, people who constantly talk about you. They are extremely jealous. And all these signs, I'm pointing that because I want you who are viewing tonight, who are watching us tonight, to really sit down and think, is this what I'm facing?
Yes.
Okay, and They will blame you for their own problems. You see, my company is not working because of you. I don't
Yes.
earn a lot of money because of you. It's they put the guilt
Mm.
into you. So now
Yes.
you start feeling really bad. And they try also to isolate you emotionally. You see, when you talk to sister so and so, you didn't see how she was looking at you. She doesn't even like you. So now you find yourself in such in a corner. You find yourself alone. They want you most of the time to be alone with them.
Yes.
Why? Because then they can control you and they know that you are not going to be able to say it to other people. So
Yes.
that's why, Pastor Deborah, we are having trouble. Like mostly women, even men, they will not talk about that because they are already isolated in their
Yes.
mindset. So they think that they are really alone in this. And when
Yes.
we come to them and we say, you know what, you can tell me the things, and sometimes we do it just once, and then but they are finding themselves in such isolation that you need to sometimes even try second time, third time for them to open up and say the things to you, because the mental abuser who use everybody else to try to make them understand that nobody likes you, nobody loves you, and if you say these kind of things to people, people
Yes.
will even criticize you more.
Exactly.
Those abusers, they always demand respect, extreme respect. You're
Yes.
supposed to respect me. And when, if they are a Christian, then they use even the Bible, they use scriptures. Well,
Wow.
the Bible say that you're supposed to obey me as a wife. They
Mm.
tell you that every single time you're supposed to
Mm.
obey me, right? You're supposed to
Exactly.
obey me. This is no obedience.
Yes.
Every single time they repeat that to you. And there are people who do not like communication at all, actually. They
Yes.
communicate really bad. So
Mm.
if you try to have a conversation with them, it is
Yes.
going to be a trouble, because
Mm.
then they're going to yell at you, then they're going to scream at you, and so on. So all these things, Pastor Deborah, bring you to the consequences. And the
Mm.
consequences will be that you become insecure,
My God.
you become negative, you have a negative self-image,
Exactly.
you feel unsafe by the person, you are traumatized, and trauma is coming into all kind of abuse.
Mm.
And
Yes.
trauma, actually, you have to see it like a deep injury, a deep wound in the soul. And
Yes.
that's the hardest part of this all, because it's really difficult to heal from the wound of the soul.
Yes.
So, and sometimes, Pastor Deborah, the consequences will be emotional helplessness. And you
Yes.
hear some of them, Pastor Deborah, say to you, well, you know what? What do you want me to say? I just have to stay there. We have the kids and we have this. So let me just be like that. They feel helpless.
Yes.
They feel like nobody can do anything about the situation. And even crazy enough, many of them will become dependent of their abuser.
Wow.
I've had situation when I used to work at a women's shelter, that some of the women will come, and then 2 or 3 months later, they will go back to the abuser. Something that you don't understand. Why are you going back? What is happening? But the abuser will make people become really dependent on them. This is going beyond it. It is really mental. It kind of brainwash you mentally, so you think that you need them. Okay. And then mental health illness, of course, you have anxiety. A
Yes.
lot of people who are going through abuse don't sleep. They have insomnia. Most of them, they really cannot sleep at all. And you will hear them sometimes, Pastor Deborah, tell you in the church, I sleep very bad. I don't sleep at all. Month now, I don't sleep. There is, most of the time, always something behind the insomnia and depression. A lot of people going through depression. because of abuse, and that's just the emotional and mental abuse. And then we go to physical abuse. Physical abuse, of course, we understand is abuse when the physical aggression is involved. It is when one of the partner it chooses intentionally to use physical force on their partner. So now we talk about beating,
Wow.
pushing, throwing things, and that can even lead to murder. And that is what we
Yes.
hear nowadays. So and so murdered his wife
Yes.
because she or he, or most of the time, she will go through physical abuse and nobody knows about it.
Yes.
And she will not talk about it because she's been isolated, because they will tell her, they will brainwash her, and they will tell her, if you say this, that will destroy this, so you better just stay like that. And then he or she, they will beat you and beat you until you can break bones or find yourself in a hospital. When I used to work in a women's shelter, most of them will come through the police because they'll find themselves in the hospital, and
Yes.
then they are now afraid even to go anywhere or to call someone, and they'll bring them to the shelter. So most of the time, also, Pastor Deborah, one of the consequences that you will see is fear, anxiety. They
Yes.
live in such a fear, and they are with us, even in the churches. So they live in fear. You see the sister, she never, talk about anything. When she finished the church, she wants to go home immediately. You don't understand those things. Why is she not socializing with other people? Well, she's living in such a fear that she is so afraid that when she will talk, maybe somebody else will see about those things. And some of them will have even have bruises in their bodies, things that we don't see. And even Pastor Deborah is not just the beating, even some of them, the pushing. Because I heard a woman told me, well, he just pushed me.
Yes.
Well, this is physical abuse.
Mm.
Even the just pushing, the throwing in things. He said, a woman told me one day, he never really touches me, but he kind of throw things on me. But this is physical abuse,
Yes.
and that can lead into murder. So that's why I thank God for your life, Pastor Deborah, for this awareness, because
Amen.
women are even women mostly are dying, children are
Yes.
dying because of abuse. And
Yes.
financial abuse, like I said, is coming into all this abuse. Is financial abuse, Pastor Deborah, is not just someone wants to control the money. It's really someone wants to control your ability or your financial ability. So that's the control of money, but
Yes.
that's also like they don't want you to understand how a bank card works, how a credit card works. Nothing, none of this you can know about it. You He controls the credit card. It can buy things with that. It can uh, uh, he can pay things with that,
Yes.
without even consulting you. And
Exactly.
that's so dangerous. And many of the women, most of the time, Pastor Deborah, you find them saying to you, well, I was really thinking that he was paying the bills. Why?
Exactly.
How do you not know that he was not paying the bills? Because you are not in control. You don't know anything about what is happening with the money. Because the abuser, he control everything that's about the money, and also the bills, and even the things that you have to buy in the house. He knows, oh, this is new. How much did you buy it? How did you buy it? And where did you buy it? And he controls those, even the grocery. He will look into the grocery. Where did you went to do the grocery? Why did you went there? It's too expensive. So they control everything. And some of them, they just want themselves to go to the shop to buy the things even from the house, because they don't want you to have anything to do with money. So for them, for you to come to them and to ask them the money, or for them to control you, because money is power, and they want for themselves to give you that money, for you to come to them. And if you do something wrong, they can tell you, well, I'm not giving you money this month because you did so and so. So that is a financial abuse. And then the last one, Pastor Deborah, for tonight is the sexual abuse.
Wow.
Sexual abuse behavior is actually having sexual intercourse with someone by using force.
Yes.
The other part does not approve of the action.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I know some people will say, yes, but you know what? We married, so
exactly.
I don't really consider that as abuse. Well, you don't want that.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the marriage, you have to agree with one another that this is what we're supposed to do together. But when the other parts do not agree every single time, you need to put it on table and talk about that. But by forcing the other one, it becomes abuse, and that has really destructive consequences, Pastor Deborah, because when you are sexually abused, you develop such a fear, anxiety, that even when people will pass by you, you feel like you don't want anybody to touch you.
Yes.
You develop what we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is like one of the major destructive type of trauma, because with PTSD, you can even develop some other things. You don't sleep, you have flashbacks, you are in shock. So all these things, Pastor Deborah, that's where I always say, don't judge a woman when you see her, even when she does some of the things, because some of the things we hear sometimes, well, you women, you don't even take care of yourself. Well, your husband is coming home, you don't even dress properly, and all those kind of things. Okay, it's well to give those kind of advices, but some of the women are being sexually abused, so they don't want to attract their husband either. They don't want that. They want to dress like that because they don't want to be attractive. Because when they think about that sexual intercourse, they get into a shock. They get into a state in their body cannot really react normally. So when they go into intercourse, even in the marriage with their husband, they feel really bad. So that's where you start seeing some of the things on the outside. They don't want to take care of them anymore. Because they don't want the husband to see them they're attractive, so that they can go and sleep with them, because they are frustrated from the inside. They are confused, and they feel really alone on the inside. And those are the type of abuse. I know that it's been a little bit long, but I wanted not just to give the definition, but to give also the viewers the type, the signs, the signs, so that you can recognize, those signs. And when you recognize it, maybe we're going to talk about that later on, to see how, we can provide the help when you recognize those signs.
Exactly, Apostle. That was very, very deep, very in-depth, and very important for our viewers. There may be somebody here connected this evening who is currently going through that situation, or who is looking for a way out of that situation. And by you elaborating, that kind of rings a bell in their head, that actually I find myself in those types of abuse. Because we know, going back a little bit, I know you have touched already on these, but the different types of abuse that we have, such as financial abuse, many women, they don't think that they are being abused financially. However, when you said that if somebody has taken your credit cards, your bank cards, and everything away from you, that is abuse. So, having said that, can a woman abuse a man? Apostle Nadine.
Yes, that's a good question, though.
Yes.
Sure. a woman can abuse a man, and there are some women abusing men, even physically. Most of the time, you see the mental parts, or the emotional abuse, or even the financial abuse. But even the physical abuse, sometimes women can get really aggressive and start pushing or beating on their husbands. That
Yeah.
happens.
However, it is happening even in our communities as we speak right now, even in the Christian communities as we speak right now. But many men do not report this. Am I right, Apostle Nadine?
Yeah, Pastor Deborah. I think, generally, abuse. Many people don't really report that. Even if I have some numbers from the UK, but even on the numbers when I was studying, all the numbers they say, are not really the correct numbers, because
Yes.
people don't really report abuse, and most of the time when they are emotionally abused or mentally abused, it takes really a long time for a person to recognize that. And then when they recognize that, they've been in the situation for such a long time that they don't really, report that. And because abuse, people, think that it brings stigmas with it, the stigmatization of abuse. People are really afraid of that. And men mostly don't really take, the step of really saying, what, my wife really insult me every time, and I really, feel like low self-esteem, or I don't really consider myself a man anymore. So few of the men really recognize that, because of the stigmas, because the other, other people will just say to them, well, man enough, how can you let a woman, do this to you, or insult you, or even a bit on you, so that makes them feel even less.
Yes.
So that's why most of the time they don't really report that.
That is true. Like the apostle have said, many are unlikely. After studying, researching, many are very unlikely to report even certain types of abuse. Mostly, especially within the Christian community, because the
Hmm.
Bible now covers it all. Now, moving along, because we are running against time. Moving along, um, in cases of families, how is this affecting the children, and how are the children living in that kind of condition?
Well, Pastor Deborah, this is really sad enough, because when we involve the children in this, that becomes really, I mean, abuse is really sad. It's really sad to know that these kind of things exist. But
Yes.
when we involve the children, it's even, we really kind of feel the pain, because children who are living in the house where abuse is taking part, uh, one of the numbers that I found was 62% of the children living with domestic abuse are directly harmed by the abuser, the male
Wow.
or the female. So that means that 62% of the children living in a domestic violence are also being abused by the parents, by the women or the men. So this
Yes.
is really sad to hear these kind of things. A lot of children are, even if a father or a mother will say, I don't beat them, but the facts that they see abuse is affecting them psychologically. And that's one of the things that many people don't just realize, that the consequences of children, even just seeing abuse, can be the same consequences when they are abused themselves. So
Yes.
it is really damaging for the children to see abuse in the house.
in a home like that where abuse is taking place, can we say that actually either the abuser is under influence of maybe alcohol or other substance abuse and is not knowing what he's doing under those influences, or is he actually in the know of what he is doing and still he's, you know, combining it with alcohol? Can we, what can we say about that? Because most people, they blame it on the alcohol, or because I drink,
Mm-hmm.
because I was too drunk and I can't remember. I was sleepwalking. I can't remember because I was too drunk to even, I was too drunk or too high to know that I have beaten you. They blame it on the alcohol. But to what extent can we blame this on the
Mm-hmm.
alcohol?
Yeah. Well, Pastor Deborah, I think that it is just really important to understand that even the abuser himself or herself,
Mm,
for you to be able to abuse someone else, that means there is something in you that's not really working correctly.
exactly.
So sometimes is that's what is not working correctly,
Mm,
that mental health illness or a psychological problem that brings the person to go and you know abuse also alcohol or drugs or anything else. You
mm-hmm.
know, and the blame or on abusing someone is not on the alcohol or on the drugs, because that's also just a consequence of what the person actually is um, feeling on the inside or going through
Mm,
on the inside.
yes.
There are quite a lot of Christian people who are not drinking at all or abusing drugs, but they
Yes.
still
Mm,
do abuse
mm,
their partners.
yes.
So it is not a, you know, it is not always the alcohol or the drugs, but it is deeper than that. Is the
Exactly.
psychological problem that a person have on the inside
Yes.
of them, and most of
Mm,
the time they don't even recognize that they have a problem themselves.
wow. Like Apostle Nadine has said here, we cannot always blame on the alcohol because there may be some underlying problems, mental health issues uh, going on with that person, that that person may be broken themselves or having witnessed it or having gone through it, and this is why they are lashing out or abusing another person. Now, as a Christian, going back to the Christian community,
Mm-hmm.
because this is happening so much within the Christian community and it is so well hidden within the churches that nobody actually knows about it. And even if that person comes to speak to another person about it, they will always say to that person, please do not let anybody else know what I am going through. And what we see is mainly we see a lot of women dying, you know, suspicious deaths. However, nobody really knows the cause or what happened there. You can see the signs are there, but nobody really took the time to know what is going on within that Christian home. So, as Christians, do you feel that the church has got enough measures in place to raise awareness in the churches of domestic violence and abuse?
Well, that's a really good question. And I can speak like in general.
Mm,
Unfortunately, I see that what I see is that the church is not really, um, really busy with this issue and taking care of not just solving problems, but really helping the victims of
mm,
this abuse or these issues.
yes.
And it starts first with recognizing that this actually happens among the
Mm,
Christians.
exactly.
And if you talk with a lot of people in Christian communities, they
Mm,
will tell you this is not happening. They
mm,
will tell you this in my church, never, it's not happening.
yes.
But they don't even know that their own pastor is abusing his wife,
Mm.
You know, it
Wow.
is in that extent that if we don't first of all recognize that this is a problem, why is that a problem? Because people are dying.
Exactly.
People can die from abuse, and
Mm.
people are dying from abuse. So this is really a major, a huge problem that we need to take really seriously. So,
Mm.
but first of all, Pastor Deborah, we have to recognize that this issue is there. And second of all, I really think, you know, to answer your question, I really think as church we are falling short on that issue. We are
Yes.
not really emphasizing enough on those
Mm.
issues.
Yes.
People in the groups never speak about these issues.
Yes.
We have women groups, but no
Mm.
women dare to speak about these issues
Yes.
because of the stigma, of course, and because, you know, the elder, the women will tell you, you know, you need to just, you know, keep quiet because the
Mm.
reputation of your house and
Yes.
everything. So everybody is just quiet about that. But in the
Mm.
meanwhile, the sister can be dead the other
Yes.
day, the next day. So I think
Exactly.
we really have to take these things seriously and, you know, bring more awareness and start recognizing first that this is a real issue and this is happening in the Christian community.
Exactly. And having said that, because we first, like you said yourself, Apostle, you said we have to first recognize the problem. Having recognized the problem, what measures can we start putting into place? Or even as we are now, are there any measures or anything we can do to raise more awareness? Or will it always be like platforms outside of the church?
Mhm. Well, first of all, even Pastor Deborah, now outside, I will start with the outside the church. There are, of course, in the countries where we're living, there are, of course, measures who have been taken. Even though, even in the UK, what I was reading is that a woman, when she goes to report, she needs sometimes even 5 times to
Mm.
report before really the report to take seriously, or
Yes.
even that she will really get help. You
Mm-hmm.
know, even in the world, the system still needs to be fixed, but the system is there. And sometimes, you know, we can have numbers, or we can
Mm.
have the, you know, the place that we can, you know, send the people to get the help. Because
Yes.
I'm not saying that every abusive relationship should be ending, or people should just divorce, or people should just, you know, leave their marriage. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we need to address these issues, and the issues need to be solved because people are really dying. We can appoint some women, even men, less men, but women, to shelters or places where they can go, or
Mm.
where they can even seek for, you know, mental health help. They
Yes.
need help, you
Mm.
know, because the system in the world has already have some structures
Yes.
who are in place. So
Mm.
if we know those structures, you know, we
Mm.
know social workers, we know this, we can, you know, guide them to
Mm.
there.
To the
But, you
right
know, I can
place.
understand as being a Christian that
Mm.
sometimes we don't really trust the system in the world, because we just like, okay, somebody from the world, a psychologist or a social worker who's, you know, who's not a Christian, will just tell you, but you have to leave. You
Yeah.
know, you have to depart from the house and everything. So
Yeah.
we don't want the marriages to end. We don't
Mm.
want the houses to be just broken like that. And I
Mm.
can understand and I can agree with that. So I will say, well, then we as church need to put some structures in place then. You know, we
Yes.
can start even small. You know,
Mm.
even if you have a small church, you cannot say that, okay, we have just 15 members and we
Mm.
cannot put a structure in place. You can put a structure in place, even
Yes.
if you have, you know, a social worker or somebody, you know, being in the church, you know, addressing those issues,
Yes.
saying that those issues are there, you know,
Mm.
giving information about those issues, you
Mm.
know, bringing this awareness like Pastor Deborah is doing with this platform. You know, I mean, this is something that I believe that this can inspire even many churches, not just in the UK, but,
Yes.
you know, worldwide, to just have these kind of platforms where you can talk about those issues. But if you want to have it also within the church, you can appoint or you can have someone who's a professional who can, you know, bring the information, and you know, you really set a structure, you know, in the church, like we have somebody who you can, you know, address for this and that kind of problem. So that
Yes.
will be like the first part, the first set of, you know, our structure, because we have in the church, we have the youth department, we have the women department, we have, you know, the financial department, we have many departments in the church. So
Yeah.
if those issues are, you know, within our communities or within the church communities, why not also, you know, have a structure where people can go and talk to someone about those kind of problems, you know, for them to be able to get the right help.
Help.
And I'm talking about really a professional, you know, train
Yes.
someone, send someone to get some courses, you know, to understand how, you know, to talk with people. Because I know that if I say the pastor or the apostle or the, you know, should do that, it's going to be a little bit complicated sometimes. You know, I believe that, you know, as a minister of God, actually they're supposed to come to us with this kind of problems and to tell us this is happening in my house and I need help. And you know, with the wisdom of the Holy Spirit, but also with the knowledge that we have gained through studies and all these kind of things, we supposed also to help them, you know,
Yes.
away. But if we can't do that as a minister, well, we still can put a structure in within the church that can do that.
Wow, that is so true. We need a structure. We're ending it on this. We're gonna end this the show with we need a structure within the church, within the Christian community, to help those in need, to help those who are currently going through the problems and probably do not want to break up the marriage, but they want to stay alive. So, Apostle Nadine, as we are about to finish, in conclusion, what can you say to somebody watching you tonight who is either living in this situation, but you know, doesn't know how to come out of this situation, or maybe is too dependent on the abuser, or for whatever reason she can't see a way out? So what can you advise a person like that in conclusion?
Well, thank you so much, Pastor Deborah. What I can say, I really hope we have helped some of our viewers tonight. And what I can say is that I really want you to go through all these signs and to recognize if you are in a healthy relationship or a toxic one. And if you are being abused and you are in a state of speaking to your partner about that, I would say that this can help. This should be the first step that you can make. You know, speak about it with your partner. Dare
Yes.
to appoint the problem. Like, this is how I feel and this is how I see the things, and I see this is not healthy at all. And if this go on like this can really become bad. And I say this because if you try that first part, and most of the time women who are abused mostly, they are in such a fear and such an anxiety that they don't dare to communicate with someone who's not wanting to or willing to communicate at all. So if you don't dare to communicate with your partner, please find someone to speak with,
Yes.
because you can be the next one who we're gonna bury just because you didn't say it. A lot of people, a lot of women don't say it. And let me tell you, Pastor Deborah, when I used to work at the women's shelter, many of the women will come very, very late. 10 years later, 15, 20 years later, when they are really broken on the inside, the children are broken, and the whole system is so broken, and then they dare to go. And sometimes they see the children becoming really aggressive themselves, then they take the step. Please don't let it go so far that your children who are seeing also abuse will start also to abuse others. So
Exactly.
don't let it go so far. Try to find someone to speak to you about this issue. And if you even, are watching tonight, and I know that Pastor Deborah is very good at that, you can just contact, you just
Amen.
contact us, to the woman of God, so that we can help you in every, of the country that you are. We can search through internet, we can find the help that you need so that you can get help. If you are a Christian woman, I can understand that you are even much more in fear because of the church or because of the stigma of the people, etc. And you say, well, you know what? I'll pray myself through this. Well, let me tell you something. Prayer is good and it helps. The word of God is good and it helps. But you need another help also for the wound of the soul. You need it. And maybe some other time we'll be talking about that, because your soul is being wounded and you need the help also for that. So search for help. Search for
Amen.
help, please.
Yes. Amen. Thank you so much, Apostle Nadine. I want to thank you again and appreciate you very much for accepting our invitation on Reveal It Show. So God bless you so much, woman of God. It was very
Thank
deep,
you.
very educational, and I believe you are the vessel that God has used this evening to probably save a life out there.
Amen.
So to our
Amen.
viewers tonight, I want to say this is Reveal It Show with Pastor Deborah. It is for everyone. It is mainly a platform used to raise awareness on all the different traumas that people are going through. We may have educational sessions such as tonight. We've had an educational session with our Apostle Nadine, but on another night it might be a testimony to help save a life. What we are doing here is basically raising awareness to save somebody's life. We do not want to break your marriage. We are Christians ourselves. The plan is not to separate you from your husband or from your wife, but the problem is deep rooted. The person, the abuser, needs the right help, the right psychological help to deal with the root cause of the situation, in order for you to have a healthy environment, and for your children to have a healthy environment to grow up in, which they rightfully deserve, rather than hiding behind the Bible and battering your wife. So God bless you all for connecting with Reveal It Show tonight. I want to say we are pro-life. Seek the help and seek the solution in order to help yourself live in a healthy relationship. God bless you
Amen.
and shalom.
Shalom.